Hello and via live. My name is Christian. I'm the host of the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur Show. And I listen. I heard you. You guys wanted to have a 2.0 of the best performing podcast we have on our show. He is currently leading the charge with 64,231 downloads. We're starting right after this. Hello, and we're back. My name is Christian. I'm the host of the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur Show, and I'm super excited to have Troy back. Troy is not just a visionary leader and CEO. He is transforming the way you do franchising. Not only is he extremely good in what he does, he's an amazing human being. And for me, he's the next Gary Vee of the hospitality industry. With that, Troy Hooper, welcome to the show.
You are too much, my friend. I'm going to take you around, have you introduce me on speaking stages or something. You're overly generous, and I'm grateful for the friendship and the camaraderie. But I don't believe I'm your number one performing episode, but that's okay.
Actually, yeah. So, to our listeners, which just listening in, so we have a joint friend. If you guys haven't checked out Sean Walchef with Kali Barbecue Media, you guys need to check him out. It's amazing what he's doing. He came to me and said, "Christian, you need to do not a podcast. You need to do a show." I was like, what are we going to do with a show? And so therefore we have a little disclaimer. This is not a podcast.
Oh, there it is.
And so one of the things he said, you need to do this show. And our daughter was to call it the Disruptive Chef. And the idea of the Disruptive Chef is really simple, that we honestly believe that every chef has a skill, or not just a skill, multiple skills, which are transferable to do something really amazing things. And one of the things we want to do is bring on interesting guests and hopefully disrupt the thinking of the chefs to kind of look at things differently. And so I made myself the top 100 list, and Troy was on the top of our list, and he was kind enough. I think you were under the first 3 or 4 episodes we did. We since pushed out 100 episodes. So we are over 100 episodes in. And you've been one of the most listenings on our YouTube channel, on our TikTok channel, one of the most listened one. So we want to make sure we bring you back and do a little bit more. So with that, if people haven't heard 1.0, who is Troy Hooper? What is he doing, and how is he changing the industry?
Yeah, so we'll go backwards from today. I mean, currently I'm the CEO of Hot Palate America. That's a holding company owned by a private equity firm in Japan that owns the Pepper Lunch restaurant brand. Pepper Lunch Restaurants is a Japanese teppanyaki fast casual hot plate concept. So you come in, you order from a kiosk or a counter transaction, and in 5 to 7 minutes, we bring you a 500-degree sizzling hot plate of incredible ingredients that you get to cook your own way at the table. True fast casual, in and out in 20 minutes for under $20 is easy to do. And, we're tasked, myself and my team that we've built are tasked with growing this brand across North America. We're fortunate in that we have 516 restaurants in 15 countries, including the U.S., Canada, the U.S. territory of Guam, Australia, and just about every Asian nation. We grow about 60 units a year organically in Asia. But, North America wants and needs this brand. They want and need this food. And so we've been tasked with making it available and finding the right franchise partners to take out markets and start to build locations. And we're very fortunate, after about 18 months or so involved, we'll have our first new locations being built in the Q4 of this year. And October and November this year, we'll bring a few new stores to the market. So I'm excited about that. But, that's what I do. I'm a brand builder, a team builder, an infrastructure developer, a concept optimizer, I guess. And I've been doing this for about 32 years. But like yourself, not like yourself, but like yourself, chef, I am formerly a chef. I made the leap from kitchen to executive eventually. And, no, was I not, I was never a master chef. I was never of the caliber of you and many of your listeners, but, I did start in the kitchen. I do have a passion for that side of the business, the back of the house team and the business part of that side of the operation. But also have a big passion from my entrepreneur mindset and heart has me out here out front, putting together the teams and the infrastructure and the systems to hopefully build a great brand and really take a great brand we've had for 30 years and represent it very, very well into the American market.
I love that. And if our listener haven't done so, you guys need to check out Pepper Lunch. And not only what they do from a brand perspective, really how they looking at marketing to the consumer a little bit different. So you guys gonna love that. But really behind the scenes, you guys need to follow Troy with this whole process and happen to be part of it from the beginning and following you. It's not just that you share what you do on a daily basis. I think you teaching a masterclass on how to do franchising today. So if you guys, for me, I'm in Connecticut, we have Subway. I have never seen the Subway CEO. What you're doing. I have some other great brands in Connecticut, should stay nameless. I haven't seen their CEO doing what you do. So I honestly believe you teaching a masterclass on a new, not just a new way, but how to really do franchising differently. And I love that you shared that you were a chef by trade. And I want to go a little bit deeper in that because we have some people here which know they meant to do more. I know we have a few listeners which looked themselves in the mirror this morning and said, I wish I would be further ahead by now. And the reason we're doing this show is we want to bring interesting people. And for me, what I really want to explore with you today is where did Troy go from being back at the house saying, you know, I want to do something else. And then I want to kind of fast forward a little bit to where you are today and where you're going to go from here. Because I think there's some nuggets, there's some really cool tips and tricks you probably can share with our listeners on how you made that pivot. Because I know there's a few hundred people listening right now which want to do the same. So where did they come from with you and how did you start?
I have a unfortunate but very fortunate affliction, a disease, and that is I can't do anything I don't feel passionate about. If it's something I'm not passionate about, it is more painful to do that than I can imagine anything else is. My brain will not allow me to tolerate doing things I don't like to do. I bowed out after about 6 years behind the line. I made executive chef of a pretty decent upscale casual Italian family chain, and I worked in corporate. I worked for Brinker. I worked at Chili's and kitchen regional kitchen manager and Macaroni Grill and stuff like that as well. But for me, I didn't have a choice to not follow my passion. Now the affliction is that multiple times in my life I've gone to zero. I've gone to negative. I've absolutely gone to negative zero. I've had negative bank accounts and I've owed a lot of people a lot of things. But I was always willing to start from scratch. I was always willing to say, you know what, left turn right now, hard left. This is not working. I got to find another way. And the reality is you just cannot, in my opinion, manifest the end result without really understanding all the steps it takes to get there. So at some point I said, this is my goal. I have an ultimate goal. I'm going to reverse engineer. I'm going to map from that ultimate goal, which I'm not at yet, but I know where it is. I know what it looks like, and I'm working towards it. But I reverse engineered many of the steps. Now you got to have alternative routes, just like you're mapping with Waze or Google Maps. We used to do it on paper, and before that, but you got to have options, and you got to be willing to take left turns and right turns and U-turns. You need to be willing to hit the brakes and take a break. You need to be willing to rethink what that destination is. Is that still what you want after 5 years, 10 years, et cetera? But at the end of the day, it's one foot in front of the other, one step at a time. There are no shortcuts. There are no accelerators that are silver bullets. Now, we can talk about some really powerful ones that you're heavily leading in with mastermind groups, roundtable groups, mentorship, directly paid for, otherwise. There's a lot of things at our disposal today that I didn't have. You and I didn't have podcasts, right? We had to read books, and that data was not always contemporary. It was meant to be evergreen. It wasn't super hyper niche like it can be today, because you can put out a very niche book today and it can be very specific, right? So, today I'm envious of the tools that are available to everybody, and not just young people, right? But you're 48, 52, 61 years old. You can pivot. You can figure it out. There are systems and processes, and you talk about tons of them. You can write a book in 30 days or less. You can create an ebook. You can create a consulting package. You can create a digital download series. You can just talk into a microphone, by yourself and give really compelling information that people will call you and ask you for more of and be willing to pay for more of it. So the point that you inspire me, as it sounds like I'm talking like you, is, your willingness to go to zero, your willingness to start over, and your willingness to have a lot of humble pie. I've taken steps back knowing that if I took that step back or that step across, or I changed industries from fine dining restaurant to private club to Caribbean resort to yachts to then ultimately fast casual QSR. Like, if you had asked me 15 years ago or told me 15 years ago, hey, Troy, you're going to get really passionate about emerging family founder brands under 15 units, and you're going to help them get to 60, 80, 100 units. That's going to be your passion. Fast casual QSR, I would have laughed at you. I was a snob. I wore $3,000 Italian suits in private billionaire clubs. I was running Michelin rated restaurants. What do you mean I'm going to be slinging QSR food? But look, you got to go where the world and the universe and the system, I don't know, you got to be willing to be open-minded, and you got to be open to what your evolution is going to look like. And you cannot predict 20 years in the future, but you can certainly predict the next 1, 3, and 5 years if you really work at it.
I love that. And, there's a few things you said I want to quick highlight for our listeners. Number one, you need a plan. And you guys probably heard it said that people spend more time planning a vacation than they planning their career or, their life trajectory, where you want to go. So number one, you need to plan. Number two, I love how you said you ate a lot of humble pies. We all been there. And for me, sometimes I took leaps where I look back, I was like, was this the best decision I ever made? And especially it gets harder as you have family, because you need to consider other people with making some of those decisions. But I love that you persevered and kind of pushed forward, because as you move forward, and I think that's what Disruptive Chef is all about. Do something. And I have a daily reminder here I call progress over perfection. You need to start something, because what I started back in 2011 looks a lot different today. What I started 3-4 years ago looks a lot different today. And as you do it, and I think you highlighted really nicely, is as you do this, you get clear of what you want, even if it's not what you thought, 15, 20 years ago.
Don't hang on to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't be so nostalgic about what you thought you wanted that it gets in the way of letting you know now what is changed or different or what matters. I'll only say this too, that's really important, is you got to have big, hairy, audacious goals, right? You got to have a huge vision and accept the fact that you may never achieve that exact vision, but the path of getting there is going to be so informative, enlightening, enriching, and it's going to be such a growth journey for you that you're going to be very satisfied along the way. Enjoy the journey, enjoy the ride, enjoy the steps of learning, the steps of eating that humble pie, because you know that is going to inform you, that is going to educate you, that's going to empower you. It's going to give you the credibility and the reputation that people are going to want to work with you, and they're going to invite you, and they're going to ask you to bring your skills on their journey. And look, there's nothing wrong with supporting other people's journeys. Again, it just comes down to, is it the right fit for you, whatever that is. But the only way to do it is to get started. The only way to get started is put one foot in front of the other. And there is no scenario where everything's going to be perfect. It's like, when do you have a baby? When do you have a kid? Whenever, doesn't matter. It's never going to be right. You're never going to be ready.
We planned, and if the listeners don't know, I have adopted children. We thought we had it all figured out. We had it all planned. It was perfect. We're gonna go and get the child. As we came back, it was like, shit, we missed a whole bunch of stuff. But for me, also what is really important is, and you talked a little bit about this, persevering. And I used this weekend, for an example. I spent some time with really good friends of mine over 4th of July. And, inevitably it comes up, hey, what do you do? What are you planning? And I look around my friends, and they're all talking about retiring. And I also realized in this whole process that the group of my friends is getting smaller as I seem to climb a little bit higher with some of the things we want to do. My group of friends is getting smaller. Also looking around my friends, they talking about retirement. I'm talking about scaling. What do you mean retiring? We want to blow this thing out of the water. Where do you think that comes in? Where is that group? And I always consider you and I on the same thing, as we want to just make not just a greater impact. We want to leave people the people better than I found them? And then also, how can we just make an impact and shake and rattle the industry a little bit? Where is that passion of yours coming from that, yeah, whatever we do today is not good enough tomorrow?
My dad was an entrepreneur. He owned 3 businesses. He invested a little bit into businesses he was passionate about. They were bars. He bought a florist shop because he liked the girl. He wanted his friend, but it's just a willingness to, again, not with delusion, but essentially blindly walk into the dark. Say, I know somewhere out there in the dark, on the other end of this, at the end of whatever this journey is the thing I'm looking for, and I'm going to keep dredging through the shit to get there. I've been very, very fortunate that my wife was willing to carry me for a few years and let me go to zero, and we went without, and we struggled, and we didn't have a lot of the comforts and pleasures of life that people at our age should be having, right?
Mhm.
But she 100% backed that. Look, it would have been a lot easier if I didn't have a wife and son. Like, you can take those risks, and you can, who cares? The only person to judge you is you in the mirror. But when you have a family, like you said, it's a lot
Yeah.
harder to do. Look, it's all about the last day, right? On the last day, what regrets do you have? And did you regret not trying? Did you regret not giving it 1,001% and seeing what the hell happened? So for me, that's my driving force. I did have a lot of trauma as a child. I came pulled out of a burning house. My house was destroyed in a hurricane. I had several family members die traumatically by being hit by cars and just untimely things. So I learned to be resilient very young because I was raised by a single father and a military man, owned his own businesses. That there was no choice. The choice is you get up, you put one foot in front of the other. And my lesson I want to leave as a result of this conversation so far, Christian, is that you don't have to wait. You can do the shitty thing now. You can do the job you don't like today because it pays the bills and it gives you stability and it gives you a nest to fall back on. But you can do the other things too. I love what Gary Vee says, to continue to quote him is, what are you doing between 9 and midnight every night? Right?
Mhm.
What are you doing for that hour that you're on social media? Now, you can be on TikTok and learn a great deal and get lots of inspiration and get tools and resources and learn how to use AI or learn how to do a lot of things. But are you using that time as wisely and effectively as you can? And it just comes down to, if you lifted barbells for 10 minutes every day for a year, imagine what would the result be a year from now after lifting barbells for 10 minutes every day. You just got to do a little bit all the time to get towards what you want to do, and eventually it will crack open. Eventually
I love that.
you'll be
I
able
love
to
that.
make that leap.
So I absolutely love that, and I honestly feel, and amongst all of us, if you find somebody you consider successful, if you look kind of behind the curtain, you see that they all had struggles, and I think, every time I hear your story about your family, it makes me think how I grew up. And the end of the day, I honestly believe if those things wouldn't have happened, where would we be today? Because I honestly believe we are combined average of the choices we made, the information people put into us, and the friends we hung out with. And for me, that's just really important, not just to grow, but also to give back. So now pivoting around people you hang out with. So where do you find inspiration? Where do you go when your tank is on empty? Where do you go when you said, you know what, I could have done something else and it could be a lot easier? And I know you're a family man, you're traveling a lot, but where does Troy go when things are not as bright?
So, couple of things. I've built a network, right? I put in the time. I put in the effort. I gave without expectation. I
Yeah.
continue every day to give without expectation, knowing that I'm making deposits in an account that I'm going to have to withdraw from at some point. And that's those relationships. And those are relationships of single unit, one operator, family run sandwich shop to mega multi-brand owner operator colleagues and
Hmm.
peers and mentors, truly mentors, people ahead of me and where I want to be in life. Putting in that time authentically and genuinely with no expectation to give them anything I can, knowing that one day I'm going to ask. and I'm going to need. And whether that's a text I need, whether that's an unexpected encouraging email
Yeah.
or social media share or call out of the blue or a video on my birthday, whatever that is, that I know that is there. And no surprise, that you're one of those core few people that I look to, lean on, and watch and learn from. So it's really about building a nucleus of people at all levels. I'll give Stephen Covey the credit for this, but I doubt he's the one that said this. But something that's always been back in my mind. I don't like running. I have no interest in running. I think running is one of the most dangerous sports you can do. Everybody knows that runs for recreation and exercise has been seriously injured running. But this phrase always stuck with me. Because I'm not a good runner, I don't run fast. If you run with people, if you want to run fast, run with people who are faster than you. And it's not about exercise and building your heart muscle and being able to endure that. It's the little tricks and tips you'll learn by running with people that are faster than you. And I don't care what it is, biking, running, cooking, coding, it doesn't matter what it is. If you surround yourself with people that are better than you at the thing you want to be better at, you're going to not only extrapolate free data and direct instruction and tutelage that you'll get, but actually you'll absorb much more of the nuances that make them better than you at that thing by just being around them, by listening to them, by watching them, by listening to people talk about them, whether it's you or Greg Majewski or Jeff Alexander or Josh Alpern and many of these folks that I spend a fair amount of time with. All of these people are well ahead of where I am in my career and my life and where I want to be. And we all lean on each other personally, professionally, mentorship, guidance, feedback loop, information sharing, etc., because we all want to help each other be better. And we know that by helping each other, we will get that in return. And so that is the giant unlock. And that's something I've said not often enough. You're not going to do it by yourself. What you're going to accomplish by yourself can and might be remarkable. But imagine 10, 100, 1,000x that. Imagine getting so much further that you couldn't even imagine where you would be. I did not imagine many things that I am and have at my disposal today a year ago, 2 years ago, definitely not 3 years ago. I can promise you that. Did I know that if I put in the time, the effort, and I asked, and I learned, and I listened, and I ate that humble pie, and I worked really hard, I put in the time, I put in the effort, that some of this would occur? Yes. But I had no idea at a multitude factor that has been returned upon me in positivity, in success, in reputation, all of these things that has happened as a result of that. You cannot get even where you want to go without that support network, without that mentorship. But imagine if you had a group or you put yourself in a nucleus of supportive people that are at all levels. They can be people not where you're at, people where you're at, and people well above and beyond where you want to get. But it is that sort of framework that puts you into a constant state of learning and understanding that will allow you to grow and be skilled and readied and mentally prepared to do the thing you want to do, whatever that is. In your case, you have the group that does book writing. I want to write a book. You know how you write a book? One word at a time, right? Maybe it's a line a night. Maybe it's 3 sentences a night. Maybe it's a page a night. Maybe it's 300 pages in 3 days and you're just done with it. I don't know. There's different ways to write a book, but you know how you learn? You get into a group that teaches you how to write a book in 30 days.
And we always laugh about that because I was just on a podcast earlier today and they asked me, how did that whole book course start? And it you just said it identically. I paid a few $1,000s to a program. I didn't do anything. Okay. I was like, it's me. Okay. You know what? It was the wrong teacher. I bought another few $1,000 program and I did a little bit. And then I was like, maybe it was the wrong teacher. 3 times as a charm. Bought again, went out and did it. And then my wife said, why are you looking at outside of yourself? You wrote all those books with the company you work for. You wrote 14 books with them. Why don't you do what you learned? I was like, but I'm not good enough. They are the experts. I'm not. And she was actually the one which told me, start. And I was disciplined and I started and I was like, you know what? It's not that hard. And then in the end, there was this one little thing about editing, and I uploaded it, and I learned a long time ago you want to self-publish because you want to own the content of your book, and it didn't work. It didn't work. I paid this guy $1,997 to go on a course for him to teach me how to edit. We on my first 15-minute call, he says, "Okay, what is the problem?" And I tell him, "I've been for 6 months editing. It says I'm 0.0125 off." "Oh, okay. What did you do about it?" I made it 0.1. He says, okay. You know what he wanted you to do? Okay, log in. You know what? Drag it out 2.1, 2.2. It doesn't really matter. Drag it out over 2. Okay, now upload it. Did that fix it? Yes. I was like, how the fuck did you do that? It took me 6 months. And
All painting outside the lines, Christian.
Correct. And he was like, you know
Don't
what?
be restricted by the guardrails.
And he says to me, "I was you 4 years ago. You know what I did? I bought course over course over course. It was me." He says, "You know what? I did it myself and I learned." And I was like, 15 minutes, $2,000,
Right.
or 6 months doing what I do. So the next time I paid the $1,600 or $2,000 up front to learn. But it for me, that became such a life lesson. And now the reason I do the books is not about the books, it's who you become in the process of writing the book. Because I'm more interested in that, because it shows some of your character, it shows some of your flaws. Because if you like shortcuts, you will never get a book on the shelf. If you like procrastinating, you will never get a book on the shelf. And for me, the book, it kind of exposes who you are, and that's why I love doing this. And we have over 300 people now having books on the shelves because of what we're doing. And we're working with a close friend of ours. We're trying something new for him. So I'm just really excited, and hopefully you partner with us when you're ready to write a book. But
well, it won't be too long. I gotta get some time on my hands, and not a lot. I'm not making excuses. Look, it took me 4 years of being pushed by Sean Walchef to start a podcast. I finally started my own podcast. I'm not going to make that mistake again. But I do want to, you got to have a little mental clarity and capacity. I need to go, sit on a beach for 3 days and let the fog clear so I can get some clear thoughts of what I want to share. But
I think
no doubt I will be calling you when it's time to write a book. I don't got 6 months, a year, 6 years to write a book. I have get this done in 21 days.
I have a little trick. And I want to do it with you and anybody else. We learned over the last 6 months that I can get really clear within an hour conversation on what your book should be all about. And there's a little process we have in that. And number two thing is what the support materials for the book needs to look like, and what book number 2, 3, 4, 5 looks like. And we have one of our students has now 9 books. He says, I have 7 more waiting. I have 9 out there. And he said, Christian, if you had told me 3 years ago that I can make $500,000 on books, he says, I sucked at writing. And it's not about writing. You can, there's people out there which are better at it than I am. But he also confirms back to me is the book was the first thing which he says gave me actually more of a jolt of energy than anything else, because I finished it. I was working on it for 9 years. And then there was the book, and he had it out on day 32. And, he has some other stuff around. He built a whole business around his first book. And that's really what it's all about. Yeah. And so I know for me, I can tell you exactly what your book needs to be without you and me even talking about it, because there's so many things I seen you do over the last few years. We met on Clubhouse during COVID, and I seen how you progressed. I have an idea of what your multiple books need to be. So
there we go.
So for me, you're doing all of that. I still have a young son at home. Your wife is, doing stuff. Your father-in-law is supporting you. How does Troy Hooper maintain that? I hate the word work-life balance because I don't think it exists. But how do you keep peace within home with yourself, with your family, and with your business partners doing what you do? Because you're a busy guy and you're all over the place.
Yeah, I accept that there are seasons too, right? Not only seasons in life, but just seasons within the year on the work side of things. And so, yes, I can tell you that 2 times a year, I drag myself into the house and literally collapse out of exhaustion. And my wife collapses out of exhaustion for me not being here because we have a nearly 4-year-old son. But then we get 2 or 3 months of more normalcy and sort of more established life balance. And then we do it again. And then we get 3 or 4 more months, right? So, what I do with regards to the conference circuit and speaking
Hmm.
and demonstrating of the brand and sharing the brand with potential partners, and that sort of travel is pretty predictably seasonal in that way. Not that it's not hard. I was home 7 nights in 7 weeks up until, I don't know, June 1st. I don't know. And I was only actually home 4 of those 7 days. I actually just slept in my bed 7 nights. So that's kind of ridiculous. But again, back to understanding, setting clear understandings. And then the other thing I do is I do have non-negotiables. So,
Yeah.
I'm awake at 4:30 in the morning every morning. I slept until 5:06 this morning, but I'm awake really early. I try to get a lot of that social media posting, collaboration, commenting, sharing, reposting of colleagues and friends. Get that done before everybody's up. Get my initial emails from Asia read, at least so I understand what I need to look at first. And then my non-negotiables are from the time my son wakes up or my wife wakes up, usually about 6 to 6:15 in the morning, until they leave to get dropped off at school and go to work herself. So it's about 6 to 8 a.m. every morning.
Yeah.
Is I'm unavailable.
Yep.
That's not negotiable. And then I pick my son up most days of the week, unless I have a meeting or a networking event, which is not that common or not
Yep.
often. But I pick my son up every day at 4:30 to 4:45 at the latest, and I spend with him until about 6:30. So again, 4:30 to 6:30. So I get about 3.5 to 4 hours a day that it's I'm not available. On the rare occasion that something finds its way into that time slot, I make it really clear to those people that this is an uncommon, unusual. Please don't do it again. Don't expect it. I'm not going to say yes every time, because those are non-negotiables. The other one is when I
Mhm.
travel is I do FaceTime my son twice a day, and I FaceTime my wife separate from my son at least once a day, if not have 2 calls with her a day, as brief as they may be. But we continue that schedule whether I'm home or not.
Yeah, I love
And
that.
that's I
Something
get
like
up from look. I got up from a meeting, dinner after an important meeting in Denver a month or so or 6 weeks ago. I got up from that meeting, which had millions of dollars attached to it. Like, it was not something most people would say, "Excuse me, I've got to go FaceTime my son in the middle of this dinner." It was a
Mhm.
very upscale dinner, very powerful, very famous people, very serious business people. And I said, "Excuse me." And I went and spent 15, 20 minutes, 15 minutes on the phone. Some fire trucks went by. I had to show my son. Like, it's just not negotiable, because I do need to look in the mirror every day, and I do need to look in the mirror at the end of my life. And I do have a vision for the type of father I am to my son and the type of husband I am to my wife. And I fall short of that every day, absolutely fall short of it every single day. And you're never going to make up for it. So, what you do next and what you do tomorrow and what you plan for to make it better the next time is all you can do. I give myself a bit of grace, but I also beat myself up over it. But again, seasons of life. I say seasons within this job and with this year. There's also seasons of life. This is a season of my life that I have to maximize the opportunity, maximize
Mhm.
the awareness, maximize the points on the board, maximize the leverage and the momentum. I've got to take advantage of it. And
Totally
this
agreed.
season will end, just like highs and lows of life. This season will end at some point. I will be somewhere else doing something else, I'm sure, at some point that maybe I didn't envision for myself, but that will be okay. And I will have remembered this season and what I did and what I accomplished and what I got from it and what it did for me and my life and my wife and family, but also the sacrifices we made. And then we'll see how that informs the next season of life. But for now,
Yeah.
I'm having a hell of a lot of fun and enjoying the ride and enjoying the camaraderie and the friendship, enjoying seeing other people succeed and build their thing. Nothing anybody does takes away from me. Nothing I do, hopefully, ever takes away from anybody else. I hope we're all just
I
amplifying each other.
I absolutely love that, and I love that dinner story because the end of the day, I think, or I know that business people, it doesn't matter how big the deal is, you taking that time for your family shows off your character. And for me, that's super powerful. And there's nothing to be ashamed of about that. So I know I can talk to you forever, and I want to be respectful of your time. Tell our listeners, where can people learn more about Pepper Lunch and what do you do, and more about Troy Hooper?
Yeah, everywhere on social, Pepper Lunch Restaurants, plural, Pepper Lunch Restaurants on all your social medias. LinkedIn's a great spot to keep track of all the things we're doing and building and talking about. on a B2B and B2C level. I'm J. Troy Hooper on LinkedIn. Pretty easy to find if you just do Troy Hooper Restaurants, Troy Hooper Pepper Lunch. I'll come up on most platforms, and we have a podcast, if you don't mind. Mine is a podcast. I know Sean's gonna be mad at me. I don't know. It doesn't say podcast on it. I guess it's a show. I don't know what a show is either, Chef. But
Me
look,
too.
it's called
Me
the
too.
Pineapple. It's
I
called
just
the
want to make
Pineapple
sure.
Perspective by Troy Hooper. It's sponsored by Pepper Lunch. No surprise. And we talk about hospitality and what it means to these industry leaders and where they've come from in their hospitality journey. And then we talk about sort of business topic related things that they're experts in. So anyway.
Love that. So if you guys know the show, we normally have 3 quick fire questions. Sean actually asked us to change something different. So we were like, how can we change it? And you are our guest number 1, having our 3 new rapid fire questions.
There we go.
And so if you're ready for that, give us the head. So question number 1 is, if given the opportunity to do it all over, what would be the first thing you stop doing?
Start or stop?
Stop. What would you stop doing, knowing what you know today?
Procrastinating. Yeah. I struggle with procrastination on things. I thrive too much in the urgency of being up against a deadline. I do. I actually do my best work when I can thoughtfully put the time in over time, but procrastinating.
Love it. Question number 2 is, what is the first position you would hire for?
If I started all over again, was the first position I would hire for? Oh, I had the great opportunity to do it for Pepper Lunch. I was excited that the timing worked out. I hired we didn't even know what to call him for about 8 months. He's the head of digital creative and technology, but what he is a UX UI designer who specializes in AI technology. Mm-hmm. I hired an AI technologist, was the first person we hired for Pepper Lunch, because it allowed a 3-person team, myself, Mark Bailey, who you referenced, my father-in-law, who's our COO, and Jonathan Whiteside, who's this position. The 3 of us were able to do the work of about 10 people for about 8 or 10 months before we were able to start hiring more people. It really helped us scale our capacity and capability, made us look like a much bigger organization and brand initially, and made us be far more professional in our presentation, because he was able to train and leverage not one, but many AI technologies and systems that scaled us, automated systems between funnels and workflows and automated email campaigns and things like that. So he automated our internal and external communication and process workflow very quickly. And it really gave us efficiencies to allow a very small team. And even so, we're still only 9 people at HQ today so far. And we have more to come on, but we're a 30-person team. We're 9 people that do at least 30 people's worth of work because we have a lot of this efficiencies built in. So that's an important new concept, I think, if you're doing a startup or a new business, is somebody that can really leverage the modern technology to amplify everything you're doing.
I love that, because I think people consume just differently than they did just a very few years ago. And the last question is, what was the best advice you ever gotten you didn't listen to?
Patience. I love that Gary Vee is writing about and talking about patience. I definitely tried to play the short game. I tried to get those short, big wins in short order. I tried to cheat the system and get past the work, so to speak. Not that I've always been willing to do the hard work and put in the time, but just not having patience, thinking that I need to hit this milestone by this time to get this thing, to achieve that role, to get that title, to get that money, or whatever it is. And that is bullshit. That is not the way that's not the way the system works. I assure you. The simulation is not designed that way. Whatever you think about life, that is not how life goes. And it comes down to looking back, right? Wow, if I had just done that thing, I would have already been done and past that and achieved that. Like if I had just had the patience to take the time and do it right and take the path that was supposed to be taken and not try to end around it and sprint past it and do all that. So yeah, as a young man, patience.
I love that. And by the way, thanks for your honesty on those answers. We did it internally just a few days ago. We kind of asked the questions, and I really appreciated your answer. So thank you for that. So with that, I want to say thanks for being here today. I know you and I can talk forever, so we want to be respectful of your time. I really appreciate the gift of your time. Thanks for being here today. And to our listeners, if you haven't done so, make sure you join our private club, become part of the Disruptive Chef Club, which is our private community. You get a front row seat of all the great things we do. And we also do some monthly giveaways on our private calls. So if you haven't done so, please go to the Disruptive Chef Club, join our private community, and you will be amazed on the people we have in that group. So with that, I want to say thanks for being here today. Thanks. And remember to disrupt your kitchen. Fire up your career, stay hungry for change, be a little bit like Troy. My name is Christian. I'm the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur host. I'm out of here. So I appreciate you being here today, Troy. So for our listeners, be the change, be the challenge, and be the chef who sets the world on fire. Until next episode, please go out there and be disruptive. Thanks, everybody. And Troy, thanks for the gift of your time.